Baseball isn't just numbers, numbers, numbers.
This game is not being played on computers.
You don't do that with a bunch of statistical gimmicks.
You don't put a team together with a computer.
We're talking weighted runs created plus,
expected WOBA,
his sweet spot rate,
defensive runs above average,
average exit velocity,
barrel rate,
xFIP,
BABIP,
SIERA.
We are
above replacement radio.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio, where we're talking baseball kind of whenever. I'm your host, Chris Gianta. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I'm doing very well today. We are off of a midweek pod, a very fun interview with Matt Brash. Go check that one out. But it is fully off-season time. It's time to start looking ahead instead of looking back on the 2024 season. And today, we are doing our free agency predictions. We have a pretty lengthy list of free agents that we are going to be guessing the landing spots of. We did this exercise last year. It went pretty terribly for both of us, I'd say.
Yeah, we did get that. We did both get that one crazy shot in the dark and called Shohei Ohtani to the Dodgers. Yeah.
I think my highlight of that was I predicted Eduardo Rodriguez to the Diamondbacks. I got that, and I think I got everything else wrong.
Yeah, I think my one like saving grace was Sonny Gray to the Cardinals. So I think we each had like one good one, and then everything else
one obvious one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this year, everything that we agree on at least will be correct, and then at least one of us will be right on everything else, which is great. Like, I'm really looking forward to that.
Yes. Yeah, I'm excited for that. With my predictions, I don't know. Like, I only had a certain set of teams signing free agents. So, like, according to my world, all the free agents will go to like 9 teams. Fair. So yeah, maybe not a realistic scenario, but I guess I'm kind of pushing the odds here.
I mean, I don't know, if we put Ohtani and Yamamoto to the Dodgers, I don't think people would have been like, no, there's no way they're getting both.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Which, of course, we weren't accounting for Shohei's deferred payments, but
yeah, true. But yeah, we as you mentioned, this is the second time we're doing this. But yeah, I mean, do we just want to get right into it and start off with our first prediction?
Yeah, let's so we're talking about Juan Soto. He's a left-handed outfielder, previously of the Nationals, Padres, and Yankees, if you don't already know. He's pretty good. He's probably going to get at least like a multi-year deal, right?
Yeah, like, I think people were debating should he take the qualifying offer, but he denied it. I like that he believed in himself and wants to test out the market.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Judge bet on himself, right? He declined that mega extension from the Yankees, and it worked. I mean, Juan Soto is betting on himself here by not by declining the Nationals' $420 million extension from 3 years ago, but by not taking the qualifying offer from the Yankees here.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Chris, I'll let you start on this one because I usually start. Where do you have Juan Soto landing?
So yeah, I find it to be kind of funny that this situation is sort of happening again. Because sometimes we forget Aaron Judge was a free agent 2 years ago because he never ended up switching teams, but this is the second time in 3 years that the most prized free agent in baseball is coming from the Yankees. However, what I will say is this doesn't have the same feel as the Aaron Judge situation, which is why I'm saying Juan Soto is going to go to the Mets. I think the Yankees are probably going to be the other main competitor within this. But I think Juan Soto is going to go to the Mets. I think Steve Cohen's going to be very willing to outbid the Yankees, and I'm sure it'll probably be sort of a flex he can have potentially on the Yankees and gain even more praise from the fan base from it. But in terms of why this deal, why the situation is a good bit different than Aaron Judge's 2 years ago when he was the most prized free agent on the market. I think Soto is a lot less willing to compromise on the Yankees end. He's only been there a year. He has less connection to the city he has less connection to the city, and the Yankees have less connection to him, which makes this relationship it's not as strong. So Soto is going to be willing to more willing to walk away, and I think the Yankees would also be more willing to walk away from negotiations. And then also, there's just more commitment required in this situation. People are projecting 13-year deals for this guy. Whereas, yeah, the Yankees signed Aaron Judge for 9 years in that situation, and ended up paying $360 million, and people are projecting $600 million contracts for Juan Soto. So yeah, I think it's just going to be whoever has the highest bid, and I think the Mets are going to be doing that. I think the Yankees um are not going to be the most aggressive team, and also let's remember. The Yankees did not have the highest bid for Aaron Judge. It was the Padres who ended up doing it. The Padres were throwing out crazy deals in that offseason, but let's not forget that. So it's not a thing where like, oh, the Yankees can't be outbid. Because they have been, and but Judge still ended up choosing them in a situation where a team outbids for Juan Soto. I don't see Juan Soto still going to the Yankees. Is my conclusion there?
Yeah, it's a lot of good points there, Chris. Yeah, not all, unlike Aaron Judge, Juan Soto is a Scott Boras client, which,
Yeah,
historically speaking means he's more just looking for the highest bidder. Obviously, that's not, always the case, but I mean, the way that he spoke in his post World Series press conference, where he said like, "Hey, I'm open to all 30 teams. Give me a ring, whatever you want." Um, so there's a lot of factors going into this. I think really we should just kind of appreciate the fact that in back-to-back off seasons, we've had Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, and Juan Soto all hit free agency. We usually don't see stuff like that in any given one year, but to have it 3 years in a row is like feels kind of unprecedented.
yeah,
We're
yeah.
like we're like arguably the best, arguably a top five player from the previous season is hitting free agency,
Right.
and is going to
Yeah.
get a lengthy, deal. Like that doesn't always happen, especially 3 years in a row. So I think it's very cool. Um, I also have Juan Soto going to the Mets. It's pretty much the same analysis that you put. I think he's looking for the highest bidder, and I have a hard time believing that Steve Cohen won't be exactly that. Yeah, I mean the Yankees didn't have the highest bid on Aaron Judge, and I think if Steve Cohen really wants to cement himself as the person that Mets fans want to believe he is, this is how you do it. You steal a superstar player from the Yankees in free agency, something that was unfathomable at really any other point in our lifetimes, and maybe throughout the history of each franchise. Like you don't. It used to be the other way around, right? Like Dwight Gooden was eventually a Yankee. Darryl Strawberry was eventually a Yankee. Like a lot of the big Mets players end up Yankees sometimes, but this would be obviously a major reversal of that, and in a much more uh, high stakes sort of way, right? He's entering his age 26 season, which I think is awesome. I think another big part of it is like I feel like Juan Soto, from what some of the reports have said, has a desire to be the guy. And if he's on the Yankees, he's not the guy. Aaron Judge is the guy. And like, Lindor might be like the vocal leader of the Mets, but I think Soto would kind of be the on-field leader in terms of performance. I think the Mets, as long as he is on them, will always be Francisco Lindor's team. But I mean, like Juan Soto is going to be much more of the guy on the Mets than he would be on the Yankees, if that makes any sense. Not to mention the other person that he's kind of leading the team with is also a Latin player. I know that that's something that matters to a lot of people. Juan Soto grew up in the Dominican. He watched the Red Sox because of guys like Manny Ortiz, Pedro. So like, the Latin players like that obviously matters to some degree. And yeah, I have him going to the Mets for the same reason. I just think Steve Cohen will be the highest bidder.
Yeah. 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 It makes things maybe a little bit more simpler when we think that the guy's going to go to the highest bidder because yeah, I mean you know if we knew what his personal preference may be or whatnot, it might complicate things, but yeah. So yeah, on to Corbin Burns, who yeah is coming off yeah, he was announced as a Cy Young finalist this past week, I believe, that's if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, he was.
No, it was not.
Oh, okay.
No, it was Scooble, Classe, and Seth Lugo.
Lugo was the other starter. Okay.
Yeah,
Burns, he will
he'll get
probably
votes.
Yeah, he'll get votes. But yeah, coming off a nice season with the Orioles after a solid career with the Brewers. He's hitting the free agent market. I have him going to the Texas Rangers.
Okay.
Not really out of any, I don't know. I don't really have any specific reason other than I figure they probably will be going, for a starter because they have Scherzer, Eovaldi, and Heaney all hitting free agency. And they really just have like Jacob deGrom and John Gray out there right now. Um, you know, you got, I guess Tyler Mahle would be a guy, but
Cody
uh,
Bradford, Kumar Rocker, Jack Leiter.
yeah, yeah.
Too
So they
many,
got
too many question marks out of that group.
Yeah, some question marks as you put it, and yeah, they could definitely use some veteran experience on that staff, and Rangers have shown to be willing to throw out some money over the past few years, so yeah, I figure they'll do that with Corbin Burns.
I have Corbin Burns going to the Dodgers, which I think everyone would have a lot of fun with, um, particularly on Twitter. A lot of people would love that. It's kind of typical for World Series winners to maybe be a little complacent the next off season and kind of try to maybe just bring back as many of the returning free agents as possible and not really add to the team because you look at the current team, it's like, hey, they already won the World Series. What more do we really need to add? The Dodgers don't really do that, right? Like they won the World Series and then added the reigning Cy Young winner from another team, uh, which obviously that didn't work out. But I mean, clearly it shows that like winning the World Series doesn't stop them from making massive moves to make the team better. They obviously have the capital to do it. And I don't know if you saw this, Chris, but after the Dodgers won the World Series, MLB posted like the Dodgers are World Series champions graphic. Corbin Burns quote tweeted it with the eyes emoji, which
Oh,
yeah, like clearly he wants to be there. I would assume that's what that means, right? I mean, he's also a Boris client. Uh, Look, man, I think a lot of teams are going to look at the Dodgers and be like, "Hey, I would love to be there if you want me." I really think I mean, if he feels strongly enough about wanting to go to the Dodgers to where you will publicly quote tweet with the eyes emoji, he could have just been doing that to just like, get people a little entertained, whatever. I'm sure he'll listen to offers from every team that puts them down, but I would have to imagine it's a case of as long as the Dodgers want him and are willing to give him the contract that works, he'll be there. So I have Corbin Burns going to the Dodgers in this scenario.
yeah, yeah, that's certainly an interesting case. I was not aware of what was occurring on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's certainly interesting. So yeah, now we move on to Alex Bregman, who's going to be definitely the best third baseman on the market. And one of the better one of the better position players on the market as well. I Yeah, I have a very weird feeling about this free agency because I feel like the demand for him is not super high, or at least among teams that can afford him. And that's why I have him going to the Astros. I
Oh,
have him staying in Houston because I don't know, just like looking at the teams who need a third baseman and looking at the teams who can afford someone like Alex Bregman, uh, the Astros seem like the best fit. And I think these are going to be long negotiations. I think there's going to be kind of a stalemate, and I think this will be one of the last big free agent deals done this offseason. But I think he ends up going back to Houston because I just don't think the other teams that need a third baseman are willing to dole out the type of money that Alex Bregman would demand. Who do you
hmm.
have? Who do you
Yeah.
have
So you
him
you
going
kind of
to?
you kind of see this as like a Cody Bellinger type situation from last offseason where he goes out hoping for big money, and no one, everyone kind of stands pat because they see kind of the underlying stuff, and he just ends up back with the original team.
Um, yeah, possibly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you in the sense that like, I don't ever go to the Astros, but I see this free agency as less of what can Alex Bregman do for your team and more of what can your team do for Alex Bregman because this is a player that is, statistically been in decline for a couple of years. He just had his worst full season of his career, I would say. Um, like the power is very much to the pull side. The defense is still strong. The strikeouts are still very good. The problem is that his walk rate was by far his worst. this year, and that's definitely not a good thing. His OBP dropped by 48 points this year, compared to 2023. So, and yeah, he's obviously leaving a ballpark that very much suits his style of play, maybe better than any. I don't have him returning to Houston, but I kind of had to try to figure out what team makes sense, but also plays in a ballpark that at least plays somewhat favorably to his needs. And that team to me is the Toronto Blue Jays. I have him going north of the border, reconnecting with former teammate George Springer. Uh, Obviously, third base is a position of need for the Blue Jays. They've shown that they are willing to spend the big money with whatever it is that they offered to Shohei Ohtani last offseason, right? They were kind of the finalists there with the Dodgers. His plane was going to Toronto and then it wasn't, and that whole thing that happened. Um, I think they are willing to dole out whatever kind of money it is for Bregman because they had I don't know if they're gonna pay Vlad Guerrero, so they might have his money coming off the books soon. They have Ernie Clement as the third baseman right now. I think they'd be willing to put Bregman there instead. So I have him going north of the border.
Yeah, 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 it would be a nice, definitely corner infield addition for them. Yeah, now we move on to Blake Snell, who, yeah, one for the second year in a row is on the free agent market and one of the more coveted pitchers on the free agent market, or so we think. So yeah, I don't know. It's sometimes it can be hard to predict starting pitchers because we know that there's so many on the market and so many teams are out looking for starting pitching. So it's just kind of figuring out which, doing a mix and
Mhm.
match of which will go where. So I have Blake Snell going to the Yankees. And I think the Yankees, in my hypothetical scenario where the Yankees don't end up getting Juan Soto, I still think they will get a fair amount of free agents, and I think they'll go out and get Blake Snell. I think Blake Snell might have been. I might have had the Yankees getting him last year. I'm not sure if I
I
could
think
be
you
wrong on.
did.
Yeah, I could be wrong on that,
I
but
think you did.
but yeah, like I don't think they typically go for like the innings eating type, outside of Garrett Cole, but Garrett Cole is far more than that. Yeah, I think they'll just go for the quality of innings that Blake Snell provides, and I think they see value in that in the playoffs, where it's like, okay, maybe we don't need you to go six full innings, but can you give us four really strong ones? Blake Snell is the type to do that, and I think they'll go for that.
So I have him going to an AL East team, just not that one. I have him going to the Red Sox. There seems to be a lot of optimism among those with insider info on the Red Sox that this offseason might actually be different and they might actually be willing to spend, unlike all of the previous off seasons. I think Blake Snell pitched his way into a lot of money this past season. And I say that as someone who didn't believe it. After his Cy Young season in 2023, because all of the doubts that people had about Blake Snell last year. Like some of them got resolved, and also some of them, you realize even if they are still flaws, it doesn't stop him from being a great pitcher. First of all, the innings became much less of a worry. Later down in the season, in his last 13 starts, he had one, two, three, four. He had four starts in which he finished at least 7 innings, including a no hitter. He had several outings where he finished at least six. He had a 131 ERA, and that span a 164 FIP. Yeah, look, when he's healthy, he is a dominant force on the mound. He is a legitimate ace. The Red Sox need that. They still have, they still have a ton of space to go until they hit the luxury tax threshold. Um, and I think, if they want to send a message and say, hey, by the way, like we're back, this would be the guy to do it for, other than Soto, obviously. But in terms of pitching, I think this would be the best guy to do it for. I think Blake Snell is the best pitcher on the market. Strikeout wise, I mean, he has crazy strikeout stuff. He gets whiffs, he gets chase. Um, Everything about him is just really solid. And the walks also did go down this year. The innings, like I mentioned, got better. I think the best thing to do is just give Blake Snell an offer right now because after last offseason, I think he'd be very quick to take an offer that he likes. So I would say just like, hey, right now, whatever the number is, here it is. Uh, and I think the Red Sox could be the team to do that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. And if people are kind of wondering why maybe our tunes have changed about Blake Snell in the past year, looking at some of the underlying numbers that have changed from 2023 to 2024, that his expected ERA went from 3.77 to 2.54, and his FIP went from 3.44 to 2.43. So each of those dropped a full run, and yeah, part of that had to do with a much lower walk rate than he had in 2023. His walk rate went from 13.3% to 10.5%. And his strikeout minus walk rate went from 18.2% to 24.2%. So yeah, there's a lot more underlying things to appreciate about Blake Snell this time around. So yeah, there's a lot more optimism to be had from people like Daniel and me. So yeah, now on to uh, another pitcher on the market who, certainly has made less of a name for himself in MLB. He's yet to pitch an MLB game, but has had great, um, some some great experience in Japan. Roki Sasaki, and I don't know. I just went with the obvious pick here, and went with the Dodgers because it's a thing where like we're doing predictions, and I know you want to kind of sometimes come out with your takes, but there's certain picks where if you get it wrong, you'll be very mad at yourself for getting it wrong, and this is one of them. So I'm going with the Dodgers.
Yeah, so if anyone's curious about how this whole thing is operating, Roki Sasaki was posted by his team, the Chiba Lotte Marines, out in the NPB. He was posted after age 23, which is typically not how the NPB posting system works, but he basically demanded to be posted, and they gave him, and the Marines basically had no choice. How this works, you saw that Yoshinobu Yamamoto got the 13-year, $325 million contract from the Dodgers last offseason. That's not going to happen with Sasaki. It's the same situation that Shohei Ohtani was in back in 2017, where he was posted before the required date to actually hit like the MLB style free agency. Chris, you know how when sometimes trades happen and there are teams that trade international bonus pool money?
Yeah.
That's how you sign Roki Sasaki under this system. Teams have a limited amount of money that they're able to spend within a given year on international talent coming over. So Roki Sasaki is not going to get any sort of massive contract. Really, any team has pretty much an equal chance of signing him, given that there's no real outbidding process, so to speak. So it's almost like he's getting drafted, but he gets to choose who he's getting drafted by. And for that reason, I also have him going to the Dodgers. I think obviously, right? I mean, all you have to do is go into that meeting with Shohei Ohtani, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and the World Series trophy, and that's pretty much it. That's really all you need to see, I think. Not only that, but if he's not going to be making a ton of money in the next few years, he's obviously going to be making a lot of endorsements if he goes to the Dodgers because they obviously do a lot of Japanese advertising to begin with. I think Sasaki would get a much bigger cut of that if he goes to the Dodgers compared to if he went anywhere else. It is the obvious choice, and yeah, under this hypothetical, I have the Dodgers rotation next year being some combination of Ohtani, Yamamoto, Sasaki, Burns, and Glasnow.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So that's
that would
that's
be
fun.
yeah, that would be pretty cool, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, no, I think, people might stray away from selecting the Dodgers because it's, as you said, sort of financially an equal opportunity, but it almost makes the chances better for the Dodgers because of
yep,
how attractive an option they are. Like, the only limiting factor would be like, oh, are they willing to dole out the money for you? But of course they're going to be willing to dole out the money because
yeah,
it's not going to be that much money. Um, and they're just generally, they're the most attractive option for a free agent in baseball. Because yeah, they're the best team, obviously. So yeah, now onto another position player, a shortstop. So it's Willy Adames, who has proven himself kind of under the radar as one of the more valuable shortstops in the game right now. And I don't know, I didn't have much to base off of, so I just went with the MLB trade rumors consensus and said the Giants. I think he's going to go to the Giants because but yeah, looking at why there's consensus there is it makes sense because the Giants haven't really had a shortstop option since Brandon Crawford left. Tyler Fitzgerald was there, but I imagine that they're willing to move him around to fit Adames at shortstop. And the Giants, yeah, the Giants for the past couple of years, I think, have had room to spend. We know that they have one of the bigger markets in baseball, but according to Spot Track right now, they have the 12th highest payroll for 2025 as it stands now. That could certainly get into the top five without much issue. So yeah, I think the Giants are going to be willing to spend, and I think they'll spend the money on Willie Adames.
I believe I saw in LB trade rumors that they were planning to cut payroll this year.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah,
unfortunate.
but for what it's worth, they do have a lot of money coming off the books with Snell, with Michael Conforto, so they can add pieces and still drop payroll. So like
Yeah,
that's I wouldn't say Willie Adames is out of the question, even if they are. I'd say like Juan Soto is.
yeah, right.
Um, this is where I start dishing out some takes here. Um, when we do these free agency predictions, you obviously look at okay, where would this be a fit? What team needs this position? What team needs this skill set? And there's plenty of teams that need a shortstop. There's plenty of teams that need a shortstop that would be willing to spend on a guy like Willie Adames. To me, that team is the San Diego Padres. I mean, we've been begging, on our hands and knees, get a shortstop, please. Get someone who can play the position. They just don't have anybody that can do it, Chris. But I think Willie Adames is going to come in and be that guy that can play the shortstop position that they've been so desperately begging for I mean, I don't know how many years now.
Yeah, no, like I mean, yeah, they it's just been a bunch of corner infielders and corner outfielders and
Yeah.
just pitchers on their roster for so many years. So many years. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is it is the first full Padres offseason post Peter Seidler, RIP. But I still think there's always some sort of reason to believe that they will make some kind of move, especially if the Dodgers are going to come out swinging, which they likely will. And I think that move is Willie Adames. If you look at the depth chart and how things are looking, right now they have Eguy Rosario as the DH. They have Luis Ariz at first base, Jake Cronenworth at second, Xander Bogaerts at short. With all due respect to Eguy Rosario, I think they would be willing to move him out of the lineup if it means adding a bat like Willie Adames. With all due respect to Luis Ariz, I think his best value is as a DH. And then you can move Cronenworth back to first, and then figure out what you want to do with Adames and Bogarts in the middle infield. So I have him going to the Padres.
Yeah, no, it would make sense. And yeah, with Ha-Sung Kim hitting free agency, that certainly makes room for him for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, I mean, you're not gonna have Bogarts play shortstop. I mean, he's a career second baseman. Jackson Merrill, he's established himself as a great center fielder. Manny Machado, what do you
Is
think he was like drafted as a shortstop? He's gonna stay at
no,
third base.
yeah,
Um,
come on now.
yeah, you need that shortstop. You need that shortstop to succeed, and Willie Adames is going to be that guy. Yeah, now we move on to Max Fried. Free agency. I was very excited about heading
Freed
into last
agents.
year. Um, and yeah, I mean he had a good year, not as good a year as I thought he would, but he had a good year last year. Um, I believe he is going to go to the Giants because
Oh,
he and maybe maybe realistically the Giants don't get Adames and Freed, but if I'm right on one of them, I'm right on one of them. But I'm more confident on Freed because like just kind of thinking about Giants starters, like he really fits that mold. The ground ball guy, soft contact, isn't going to be allowing a lot of home runs, definitely not at Oracle. But yeah, I mean, the Giants have the highest ground ball rate from their starters over the last 3 years. So I think they would like someone like Max Fried. So yeah, that's why I think he will go to the Giants. Who do you have Max Fried going to?
I'm using similar logic, but with a different team. I have Max Fried going to the Chicago Cubs.
Mm,
If you look at like kind of the mold of Cubs pitchers, Max Fried very much fits that bill, right? It's a soft tossing lefty, gets a lot of ground balls, a lot of weak contact. You think of plenty of the guys that they've had in the last like half decade or so, and Max Fried is kind of the peak of that kind of play style. The Cubs, I think, will be willing to spend, especially after how last season went, right? They haven't won a playoff game since 2017. I think there's got to be some sort of urgency within that front office to build a team that not only gets to the playoffs, but goes through it, especially with just the lack of success that the NL Central has had in the playoffs really since their last run between like 2015 to 18. Uh, so, I mean, they were a team that I had winning the division last year. I would imagine they imagined themselves making the playoffs last year. They were lucky to finish 500. I think there's some sort of uh, desperate need for urgency in that front office, and I think signing Max Fried makes the most sense. It fits in line with what they like. I think they're willing to spend the money, and I think that's what gets done.
Yeah, yeah, that would be a deal that makes sense for sure. And yeah,
Mhm.
I think the Cubs, yeah, absolutely should be aggressive on the market this offseason. Now on to Pete Alonso, who I'm sure if you ask some people, they'd think he's a top three guy in this free agent market. But but here he is. We're talking about him, sort of down the list, but might still garner some big money. I have him. This was me kind of going off the temperature of what some of the experts were saying, but I have him going to the Nationals, like some of them were saying. And my justification with that and why, maybe some of the other people are selecting him to go to the Nationals is I feel like this is the type of move you make when you have a lot of room to spend. And the Nationals have that. The Nationals have the second lowest payroll heading into 2025, or at least what their current payroll is. And I think the Nationals are in a position to want to spend and want to signify to their fan base that they're, going to be more aggressive because, yeah, I mean, the rebuild is starting to turn into a competitive window, not necessarily quite yet, but and I think, maybe 2026 we're talking about a competitive Nationals team. And why not start on that now? Nationals have been kind of slowly improving since 2022 or so. And they were able to win 70 some odd games last year. And yeah, I think they're going to start spending again, and they'll start with Pete Alonso. Who do you have Pete Alonso going to?
You basically took every word right out of my mouth. I also have him going to the Nationals. Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. This is, I think, where you start spending on pieces to build around your young core, right? I mean, I think the Nationals are going to expect a lot out of guys like James Wood and Dylan Cruz next year. They may be hoping for a little more out of Mackenzie Gore, who already looks like a solid piece. They have C.J. Abrams, who might need some work with some off the field stuff with what happened at the end of last year, but. Regardless, he's a talented young player, a franchise shortstop is I'm sure what they see him as. Pete Alonso has a 1009 career OPS at Nationals Park as someone who has played there in division for his entire career. So he clearly, which, granted, he's been facing Nationals pitching for most of that time, but, he clearly likes hitting there. I also think the Nationals are maybe a little frustrated with seeing a lot of their big star players sign contracts with division opponents, right? Like Bryce Harper went to the Phillies, Trey Turner eventually went to the Phillies, Max Scherzer eventually went to the Mets. Kyle Schwarber went to the Phillies, and I don't know this and Juan Soto we have going to the Mets in this hypothetical. So I feel like this would be a way for them to get back and say, hey, like we're stealing from the Mets, we're stealing from Cohen's Mets. So, and first base is obviously a position of need for them. Yeah, it seems like a hot take, but I mean, you laid it out pretty nicely. I have also Pete Alonso going to Washington.
Yeah, yeah. It's just it's right place, right time, I think, for the organization.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, now on to Jack Flaherty. Who yeah, I'm going with your logic that you presented about a month ago. I think he's gonna stay in SoCal, go to the Dodgers. And I guess yeah, I guess I'm taking the logic of the World Series champion, not necessarily going out and getting external talent, but kind of re-signing the talent they already have. But yeah, I think he's a good piece to have for the Dodgers, and I think he has a little bit of preference to stay in Southern California. Grew up there, grew up a Dodgers fan. So yeah, I'm sticking with that. Although, I guess maybe Sasaki being out there and potentially signing with the Dodgers might change the chances on that. But yeah, I still yeah I think Flaherty stays in LA.
So I actually backed off of my Max Fried of Jack Flaherty returning to the Dodgers, even though I said it about a month ago. Um, I think the Corbin Burns tweet and everything that I saw with that kind of took them out of the running for Jack Flaherty for me if they're going to go for Sasaki and Burns. I actually have a flip flop of we actually have a flip flop of Burns and Flaherty. I have them going to the Rangers. Kind of the same logic that you presented earlier with Corbin Burns. I think the last two off seasons in which they didn't win the World Series the year prior, they've gone out and been big spenders, right? They got Simeon and Seager, they got DeGrom. I think they're due for something this offseason, especially because the AL West generally looks pretty weak, and I think they have a desire to win the division and get back to the playoffs. And I think improving that starting rotation is certainly the way to do it, especially with all the guys hitting free agency, like you mentioned. I think Jack Flaherty is kind of just the best fit for them right there. He's obviously got good strikeout to walk numbers. The home runs might be a bit of an issue, but maybe that ballpark can contain them a little bit. So I have Jack Flaherty going to the Rangers for a lot of the same logic that you presented for Corbin Burns.
Right, right. Yeah, and as we mentioned with the starting pitcher market, I feel like a lot of these are going to be flip-flopped when it does happen. So yeah, on to Anthony Santander, who just hit 44 home runs this past season for the Orioles. He's been a good hitter for a while, but had a career year last year. I have him going to the Yankees because in this hypothetical scenario, the Yankees are not getting Juan Soto. So yeah, why not try to get Anthony Santander? He's a very quality bat. Can play the outfield, can at least play the corner outfield. And I think the Yankees would enjoy that. They don't, in this hypothetical scenario, we don't have them getting Juan Soto back. They're probably not going to want Verdugo back, and even if they do, he's probably not going to get that consistent of playing time. So yeah, I think Santander would fit a need that the Yankees have, and adds diversity to the offense as well because he's a switch hitter. So that would help them, keep that balance in the lineup. So yeah, I have Santander going to the Bronx.
I have Anthony Santander going to the Kansas City Royals. The Royals ranked second to last in weighted runs created plus among outfielders last year with 78. They really don't have one reliable outfielder out there if you look at their depth chart. So I think they need some sort of stability out there, and I think Santander provides that. Obviously, when we're talking about hitters going to the Royals, there will always be the problem of, oh, but it's Kaufman and they're not going to be as good. That's going to happen with any position player. You might as well get a guy with 44 home runs, and maybe that turns into like 32 home runs, which is still, very good. I'm sure that's something that they'll be happy with. So, yeah, I have Santander going to the Royals. If they were willing to spend on guys like Lugo and Waka, after losing 106 games, I can only imagine what kind of money they're willing to spend after making the playoffs, a year early. So, yeah, I think Santander is the best fit for them. They obviously need some more offense to back up Bobby Witt Jr. in that lineup. Pitching, as long as everyone stays healthy like they did last year, they should be fine. They don't need to spend crazy on the bullpen. If they want to go spend big somewhere, I think someone like Santander would be the best option for them.
Right, right. Yeah, so yeah, now on to Sean Manaea, who definitely got a lot of attention over the postseason because he had some quality starts keeping the Mets alive throughout that run. I have Sean Manaea going to the Cubs for probably a lot of the same reasons you have Max Fried going to the Cubs. He kind of fits that mold that the Cubs have. He's not a super overpowering guy, but still, manages to get some good strikeout and walk numbers. So good on his front. He showed the ability to get some ground balls over the playoffs, but is not he's not necessarily a ground ball guy over the long term. But still, he did a good job at just kind of getting eating some innings. Got over 180 innings last year, and just avoided avoided some rough starts, and I think would just fit that Cubs mold. Average fastball velocity is 92.3 miles per hour. But yeah, I think the Cubs would appreciate a veteran like Sean Manaea.
I have Sean Manaea going to the Detroit Tigers. This is, like the Royals, a team that I think should be willing to make some moves this offseason, given where they were at last season, the improvements that clearly need to be made. And for the Tigers, there's definitely a lot of need for improvement, even if they just made the playoffs. But certainly in the rotation is part of that. They need something behind Tarek Skubal next year. They obviously had a lot of luck with Jack Flaherty. They flipped him for Trey Sweeney, who is a good option at shortstop. And I think Sean Manaea would be a good option, or one of many good options, I guess, to serve as a starter behind Flaherty in their rotation. Yeah, you mentioned he's not a ground ball guy, and you're absolutely right about that. But they have a ballpark that I think can hold in his fly balls very nicely while getting that strikeout and walk stuff. Yeah, I mean, I'm very intrigued to see what kind of money they're willing to spend this offseason, how aggressive Scott Harris will be in pushing for ownership for Chris Ilitch to make these kinds of moves. So we'll have to see what happens, but I think Sean Manaea would be a good fit for the Tigers, and ultimately I think that's where he ends up.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it would make sense. On to Teoscar Hernandez, who also had some playoff moments playing for the Dodgers. I have Teoscar Hernandez going to the Royals. Kind of similar reasons why you have Santander going to the Royals. As you mentioned, second lowest weighted runs created plus from outfielders. I think it was like fourth lowest OPS and also fourth lowest OPS from right-handed outfielders. So yeah, it's not necessarily a situation where they need like lefty outfielders. They just need any outfielder. And I think they're going to go with Teoscar Hernandez. But yeah, I could easily see it being Santander or somebody else. But I have Teoscar Hernandez going to Kansas City.
Yeah, we have another flip flop here between
Hmm.
Hernandez and Santander. I have him going to the Yankees. Yeah, I mean, like they're going to be losing Juan Soto. They're going to need to replace him with someone if they want to bring the fans back in any way. I think Teoscar Hernandez is probably the guy to do that. He's at least a fun bat to watch. I think he'd play very nicely with the short porch. Obviously, even if he's a right-handed hitter, he has the power to go the other way. I also think he's like kind of a bigger name than Santander. It probably helps that he just came from the Dodgers and Santander was on the Orioles for the bad years. Um, but I think he has a higher ceiling going forward. I think that's could be debated, but especially given the ballparks and whatnot. But yeah, I have Teoscar going to the Yankees. I think he's the bigger name. I think he'd be a fine replacement for Soto. Obviously, Soto's the only correct one if you're the Yankees, but if that doesn't work, you're going to need to do something. And Teoscar, I think, would be that move for me.
Yeah, I would agree with the more upside part because he just has more raw power than Santander. But have you considered that he does best in blue uniforms, Dodgers and Blue Jays? So that is something
I mean,
something to
are,
consider.
are, are the Mariners not like some kind of shade of blue?
They have a
You're,
mix,
I mean, I'm asking as someone who's colorblind. So
they have that like green mix, that like aquamarine-ish type thing. I'm not a color
yeah,
expert necessarily. But
no. Well, you're definitely much closer to one than I am.
oh well. Yeah, I guess I'm the main color
Yeah,
correspondent
you are
of
you are the
Place for
main
Radio.
color analyst on this show. I
Ah,
don't mean
color
like I don't mean like that kind of color analyst.
color analyst. Yeah, that's a good play on words.
Yeah.
Now on to Yuze Kikuchi, who yeah, I think a lot of different teams with some analytical departments may be interested in because yeah, he's shown the ability to be one of the more dominant strikeout pitchers out there. He just yeah, he sometimes gives up the home run ball a little bit too much. But I have Yuze Kikuchi going to the Orioles, partially because I think there's some fun stuff that the Orioles analytical department might like. They've grown more analytical over the past half decade, and I think they might like someone like Yuze Kikuchi. And I know there was some news about Camden shortening their left field, but I still think ultimately it's going to end up being favorable to left-handed pitchers with, I'm sure it's going to be, deeper than your average stadium in left field. So yeah, I have a, and so yeah, in that case, a left-handed pitcher is going to be facing more right-handed bats, and therefore, less opportunities for home runs there. So, the Orioles might favor someone like Kikuchi who throws from the left side. Who do you have, who do you have Kikuchi going to?
I also have him going to the Orioles. Yeah, I mean, you nailed it there. We're gonna look back in a few years and be like, why did they ever think it was a good idea to move it back that far? That was insane.
I'm very glad that I got to see it in person.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, on multiple occasions. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you kind of nailed it there. Everything that I was going to say, you were going to. Analytical department. He's got good strikeout to walk numbers. The home run ball does hurt him quite a bit, but Baltimore, even if they're moving the wall in, is probably going to neutralize that very nicely. Um, yeah, I mean, I think Yusei Kikuchi, I've been saying this for a while, probably since like April or May. I think is one of the best value pitchers that's on the free agent market this year. I mean, when he's at his best, he is a solid two or three, a very good two or three that any team would take. The Orioles will probably get him for maybe like a 2 or 3 year deal. Whoever gets him, I would say that's probably what we're looking at for Yusei Kikuchi. And yeah, the Orioles, I think his flaws would play very, very nicely in Baltimore compared to other ballparks. So yeah, I have him. I have him going to Baltimore as you do as well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, on to Christian Walker, one of our favorites, is yeah, he's sort of the definition of a whole package guy.
Hmm.
I have him going to the Yankees, who have had their first base struggles over the years. Unfortunately, he would have to shave that nice beard of his. But yeah, I'm going to the Yankees. I think the Yankees have a demand for first base. They had the fourth lowest wins above replacement from first baseman last year. So yeah,
And
I
that's
think
with Rizzo leaving.
yeah, and yeah, they have Anthony Rizzo leaving. So yeah, I think it would be a fit for the Yankees, and the Yankees are willing to, be the highest bidder, especially on someone like Christian Walker.
I actually have him staying in Arizona.
Nice.
Maybe he accepts the qualifying offer. Maybe he resigns, but I actually do think that he will end up remaining an Arizona Diamondback. I mean, he's going into his age 34 season, so I can his price tag is going to be too astronomically high. The Diamondbacks have obviously committed a lot of money to their pitching over the years, but I think Walker's been such a staple at first base offensively and defensively for them. And I think it'd be a really difficult loss and a guy that they can't really replace. So it's kind of a situation where I feel like the Diamondbacks know his value better than anyone else. And obviously that exists with kind of any free agent that's, been on one team for a few years. But I really think the Diamondbacks understand what the loss of Christian Walker would mean to their team for a guy that I think they can easily afford. So yeah, I think he's going to remain in Arizona for that reason.
Yeah, that's a fair take. Yeah, now on to our first reliever that we're talking about, Tanner Scott, who has emerged as one of the better relievers in baseball over the last couple of years. Had a rough start to last year, at least in terms of walk numbers, but really started to settle in and had a really productive year last year as well, along with a pretty astounding season back in 2023. I have him going to the Rangers. Maybe it's the thing where they had a missed opportunity with Josh Hader last year, so I figure they should go out and get another version of Josh Hader with Tanner Scott. But yeah, the Rangers, I think they're a team that wants to compete, and they had the fifth worst bullpen ERA and bullpen FIP last year. So they definitely need some relievers, and could use a closer. And I think Scott could be their closer moving forward if they go out and get him.
I have him going to the Philadelphia Phillies, a team that I think you and I, for good reason and for whatnot, have had Baby being a little too quiet thus far in the episode. I was kind of going through these, and I got to Tanner Scott and realized, man, I don't have anyone going to the Phillies right now, and I think he actually makes the most sense. I mean, I think if they're going to add anywhere, either a fifth starter or a closer. I don't think they really need to add much on offense. I don't really think they need to add much in the rotation unless they really want to get rid of Taiwan Walker. Um, But in terms of bullpen, they're losing Jeff Hoffman to free agency. They don't really have a defined closer right now. They've kind of gone through a carousel of them throughout the years between Alvarado, between Jeff Hoffman, Orion Kerkering, whoever it may be. I think Tanner Scott would come in and sort of just be the guy for them, be the defined closer. Sir Anthony Dominguez is a closer for them as well. Just kind of go through the list of guys that they've had over the last couple of years. So, I think if the Phillies want to, redeem themselves from that very disappointing end of the season that they had and, clearly come out as a better team on opening day next year, I think the best way to do that is go get a guy like Tanner Scott to be, the defined closer on opening day.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. They're coming off a year where their playoff, they did not meet their expectations in terms of once they hit the playoffs. So on to Luis Severino. I have Severino going to the Tigers. And kind of just using some of the logic you used on a previous
Mania.
starter that you had going to the
Mania.
Tigers. Yeah, Mania. They need, they could definitely use some starting pitching, and I just have Severino happening to be the guy that the Tigers get because also, I think it's a thing. It's the type of deal where Tigers can afford it. It's a smaller commitment, and it's the type of deal I think the Tigers would make at this stage in their window. I have the Tigers going out and snatching up Luis Severino.
I have him going to a different playoff team in Central. I have him going to the Milwaukee Brewers. I don't
Mm.
know. It feels like weirdly like it kind of feels like a fit uh, for them. Like it's again a smaller commitment. They could always use starters over there. He kind of fits into just like the weird mold of a rotation that they've had for the last couple of years now. Obviously, Woodruff is supposed to come off the IL. They still have Peralta. But I think they could use a guy to just take up a lot more innings and maybe give themselves five healthy guys. Fingers crossed between Peralta, Woodruff, Savali, Tobias Myers, and Severino. I know that he hasn't been healthy in the past, but he was the last year. I think that's going to boost his value a lot. Um, and I think a team like the Brewers maybe makes sense where, they usually aren't committed to spending a ton of money, but they don't have to with a guy like Severino. But after last year, I think this is another team that really wants to come out better than they were in October. And I think this is maybe the way that would make the most sense for them
Yeah, absolutely,
in terms of
absolutely.
free agents, at least.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Now moving on to Jurickson Profar, Jurickson Profar, who actually he's only heading into his age 32 season. Like
I know,
you forget how young he was when he came up.
like what,
With
like
the
2012.
2012. Yeah, I'm looking at his reference page right now. 2012. It was his age 19 season. So he's had quite the arc. So yeah, he's only 32, hitting the market, and I have him staying in San Diego. Part of this might just have to do with his preference. I think he has a certain comfort with that organization. And I think the Padres could use you know, they can, it wouldn't be a neutral if they lost him, if that makes sense. Like they could use bringing him back. And yeah, like Profar's two best seasons have been with San Diego, so I just think he likes it there. I think the Padres could use him and can afford him, so it just kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I also have him staying in San Diego. I mean, obviously, like we kind of waited to see a breakout season from Profar for so long. We finally saw it last year. He was an all-star, and he came over on a minor league deal. So I think this is a pretty easy, hey, let's run that back, see if we can do it again. Also, I think it's just so funny how like no matter how good the Padres are, we always look at them during the offseason and be like, well, this team needs at least like three more bats at least. So Profar seems like a pretty obvious guy to bring back this next season. See what you can get out of him, and really just like kind of ride it out until either he just outprices himself or it fizzles out. So yeah, I mean, I think Profar staying with the Padres makes the most sense here.
Right, right. Now on to Nathan Eovaldi, who I feel like is just perpetually on the free agent market, where he's just constantly out there. But yeah, he's hitting free agency once again. I have Nathan Eovaldi going to the Mets. Because I feel like this is a Mets type deal. I think the Mets go like to go out and get veterans, like someone like Eovaldi, and in a competitive window, that the Mets appear to be in, it would make sense to get an older guy. They're not waiting around for anybody necessarily, and Eovaldi, yeah, he has kind of maintained quality into his mid 30s, which is nice. Had I didn't realize had 170 innings last year, with some very good rate statistics as well. Keeping the strikeout and walk numbers very good, keeping the run prevention pretty good. And yeah, I believe heading into his age 35 season, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I think that would be a good deal for the Mets to go after.
Yeah, I have Nathan Eovaldi going to the Giants. A lot of the same logic that you used for um, Freed,
Yeah,
right? That's who it was. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, like I said, I saw that MLB Trade Rumors article saying that they were looking to lower payroll. Obviously, with the money they have coming off the books, they can sign Evaldi and still have a lower payroll than last year pretty comfortably. Um, this is a team that I think needs some starting pitching behind Webb, behind Robbie Ray, and whatever you're going to get out of him. A couple other guys as well. And Evaldi, I think, fits the mold very well. He has good stuff. He throws very hard. He, has been a ground ball pitcher at different times of his career. I think that's something they can really do well with. So, I have Evaldi going to the Giants.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think he could bring value to whoever he goes to. Yeah, on to Jeff Hoffman, who is the second reliever we're talking about. I'm sticking in Philadelphia.
Okay.
Just I don't know. I figure the Phillies will get a reliever on the markets, but I just figure it'll be Jeff Hoffman. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't really have much analysis other than, you know, um, like I kind of get why they may move on from him considering his playoff performance, but I don't know. He was just so good last year, and the Phillies will end up needing a closer no matter what, and I figure it'll just be Hoffman. Who do you have Hoffman going to?
I have Hoffman going to the Boston Red Sox. I think Andrew Bailey's going to would work very nicely with his pitch arsenal. He throws a slider most of the time. Does throw a four seamer 39% of the time. I think he would drop that to add more splitter usage, which he threw 12% of the time last year, which is lower than previous years. But I mean, I think I really like the idea of what the Red Sox could create with a guy like Hoffman, who's already very good. He had a 2.17 ERA last year and a 2.87 expected ERA. They obviously also need bullpen guys with Kenley Jansen leaving and really no defined closer, like I mentioned earlier with the Phillies, right? Like I don't think relying on Liam Hendricks is very good. I don't know if Justin Slayton's ready to take that leap. I don't know if they want to go back to Garrett Whitlock. I wouldn't mind if they did personally, but um, who knows what exactly the Red Sox want to do with their closer. If they want to go out on the free agent market, which I do think they do want to do, I think Jeff Hoffman would be kind of the guy for them.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly hopeful that there's potential for that. Yeah, now on to Tyler O'Neill, who is coming off a little bit of a resurgent year with the Red Sox. Initially I had him going to Boston, then I realized the outfield problem and they just don't really have the room for him necessarily. Which I don't know, it stinks because he was really good for them last year, but um I I don't know. I don't know how realistic this is, but I have him going to Seattle. He grew up in
For going back to his former organization.
yes, the organization that drafted him. And I'm
Mhm.
sure this doesn't have too much to do with how free agents look at things, but he grew up in British Columbia, which is, right on the border of Washington State. So I think that would be a little bit more attractive than your typical MLB organization. And the Mariners always need some sort of offense. I feel like they always, find a bat over the offseason. So I figure that'll be Tyler O'Neill.
Yeah, this is maybe my hottest take of the entire episode. I have him going to the Pittsburgh Pirates. This is a
Mm.
team that desperately, desperately needs outfield help. They were also like the Royals, very bad with outfielders last year. He also hits lefties very well. He had like an 1100 OPS against lefties last year, which was just insane. Um, yeah, I mean, I think I don't know. Like at some point, this team has to be willing to do something, right? Like we're going off of two straight seasons now where the Pirates had a very strong start and just had like one really terrible month in the middle of the summer that kind of just crashed their entire season. They ended up, with Brian De La Cruz as their big trade deadline acquisition, who was quite terrible for them. I don't know. I think they need to do something. Um, and I think Tyler O'Neill would make the most sense. I mean, I know that this is supposed to be like where we think they're going. I do think there is actually some kind of chance that he could go there. Um, this is more of just like a shot in the dark. Like if I'm right, we're gonna go back to it. Um, but yeah, I'm going with Tyler O'Neill to the Pirates.
Yeah, the actually, yeah, what surprised me was MLB Trade Rumors was sort of they had two out of the four experts go with that as well. So
Yeah,
yeah, it seems like yeah, it seems like there's potential there. And yeah, the fit makes sense. It's just a matter of will Mr. Nutting open up
yeah.
those pockets for such a prized free agent like Tyler O'Neill. I mean,
Mhm.
he's gonna get like $40 million. I don't know if a billionaire can afford that, to be honest.
Would it be the largest free agent contract outside the organization they've ever handed out, which I
Will
think
it?
is currently Russell Martin, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. I remember they outbid the Yankees
Yeah.
in that one. Um, yeah, so now on to yeah, speaking of the Yankees, Gleyber Torres is hitting the free agent market. Um, yeah, it's kind of tough to find a fit for him, so I just have him staying in New York.
All
Uh,
right.
I don't really know what the other middle infield options are for the Yankees. And I think they're willing to overpay for someone like Gleyber Torres, so I just have him sticking around. But yeah, I'm not uber confident in it, but I think he's gonna do it.
I have him going to Seattle. They've been working on second base for 1,000 years, and it's just never worked. I don't really know if Glaber would work there either, but I think they're just so desperate to fix that position that they'd go for it.
Yeah.
Glaber, I don't know if he would, much like pretty much any hitter ever, I don't know how well he'd play in that ballpark, especially as someone who generates most of his power at Yankee Stadium to the opposite field. Um, but I do think that that's kind of the direction that they'll go down, looking for bats, at least on the free agent market. So I have Gleyber Torres going to Seattle Mariners.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The Mariners certainly. It's been just a perpetual. It's like how the it's like I guess still, but how the Cleveland Browns used to be with quarterbacks. It
Yeah,
just
someone needs to get like the Mariners second baseman jersey,
yes,
like the
yes,
like the Tim
exactly.
Couch Browns jersey that just like goes down the list.
Yeah, yeah. We need Dust. It starts with Dustin Ackley, and then it goes.
Starts with Dustin Ackley. Yeah, you go through Polanco, you go through Colton Wong, you go
Yeah,
through Adam Frazier, Dylan
yeah.
Moore, who is still
Jorge
there, but
Polanco.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a mess over there in Seattle.
at second base.
At second base particularly.
Yeah.
Um, on to Clay Holmes. Who yeah, another Yankee coming off the books. I have him going to Baltimore.
Oh,
Because
that's fun.
yeah, I think yeah, I think the consensus is the Orioles are trying to get bullpen help to go along with like hopefully Felix Bautista is coming back this year, but to go along with him, go along with Cano and the other guys like that. Um so yeah, I think Holmes will be the guy that the Orioles go out and get because maybe like just it's just the more kind of the logical thing to do or logical way to spend your money on a reliever is to get a guy like Clay Holmes because I think he got a lot of scrutiny from like New York fans and the New York media because of the blown saves, but when you look past that, he was still a really good reliever.
He
It just
also he also had like a very high batting average on like softly hit ground balls.
yeah, exactly. Like I'm sure many of those blown saves were a result of some, you know, uh not
Misfortune.
Texas leaguers, but some worm burners that just found the hole or found a spot in the infield where the infield couldn't make a play on it. So yeah, I think the Orioles will disregard the blown saves and they'll go for someone like Clay Holmes.
I I have him going to a different orange team. I'm talking about the San Francisco Giants. I mean, that you
Ground
talk about the
balls.
ground balls, that's Clay Holmes. You
Yep.
talk about the nasty stuff, that's the San Francisco Giants. That's the Clay Holmes. Yeah, I think it'd be a really fun fit. He also, like the Orioles, doesn't really have to be the closer there. I think Ryan Walker is probably the guy now after Canelo Duvall had that rough season. Ryan Walker stepped up and became really the guy for them. So I think that would be a really fun back end of the bullpen between the three of them. I think, like I mentioned earlier, they can lower payroll and grab Clay Holmes on like a 2 year deal, maybe like 2 years, 30 mil or whatever. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. I think it would make a lot of sense. I think they would maybe get even more out of him. They have a good defense with guys like Matt Chapman. I don't know if Tyro Estrada is still going to be at second. Tyler Fitzgerald played good at short last year. Um, the infield defense makes sense for him. I think it'd be a very nice fit, and I think they can make it happen.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So yeah, on to Carlos Estevez.
Estevez.
What is the
It's
accent is on
Estevez.
accent is on the second D according to his.
Interesting. That's not how broadcasters said it.
So maybe I don't know. Maybe we're all saying it
Maybe it's
wrong. Or,
both. Maybe it's both. Maybe it just like doesn't care.
yeah. Yeah. He just like when people call you Dan, maybe
Yeah.
that's the scenario.
Yeah.
He's not willing to correct people. Um, so yeah, Carlos Estevez or Estevez. I have him going to the Red Sox. I have him, I think as maybe it's been tracked. I don't have too much optimism in the Red Sox this offseason, as this is my first time mentioning the Red Sox. Um,
Nice.
I see it potentially being a thing where like Holmes is off the market, uh, Scott's off the market, Hoffman's off the market. It's like the Red Sox, oh, we can get us, we can get Estevez here. So why not? So yeah, I figure it'll be, Red Sox have turned into the team that gets like the fourth or fifth option. So why not the Red Sox getting Carlos Estevez here?
I have him going to the Yankees. So
Hmm.
it's a flip flop between Blake Snell and Carlos Estevez.
Yes, indeed, indeed.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know. I mean, they're going to be looking for a guy to back up Luke Weaver, who I assume will be their closer next year. They're going to be looking to replace Clay Holmes, maybe replace Tommy Canley as well. I still think the bullpen definitely needs maybe a little bit of work. I think Estevez can provide that. He, throws very hard. He gets a lot of weak contact, or not a lot of weak contact, but the expected batting average is very low this year. The pop up rate was 7.4%, but it was 14.4% the year before. So there's definitely a potential for that to become a thing. The walk rate is very low, which is something the Yankees bullpen has always been very good with. Um, in the past is not walking people. So I think that's definitely where there can be a fit. A 3.19 expected ERA last year. So he's very good. I mean, I don't know. We're kind of at the point of it where there's not really much to add other than like, yeah, he's pretty good. He could go there. I don't know. So I have
yeah,
I have Carlos Estevez going to the Yankees.
yeah, that's most at this point regarding the free agents. Um, on to Jock Peterson coming off kind of a career year, honestly, with
Yeah.
the Diamondbacks as their kind of primary DH. I have Jock Peterson going to Cincinnati,
Ooh, that'd be so much fun.
basically just on team need because the
Yeah.
Reds had the second lowest OPS from left-handed hitters in 2024. So yeah, they need some left-handed help. I think they can afford someone like Jock Peterson, and I think Jock Peterson would enjoy the opportunity to hit at Great American. So that's kind of why I think he's going to go to Cincinnati.
That's fun. I think I hope that happens. That'd be fun. I have him going to the Detroit Tigers. Like I mentioned earlier, it's a team that needs some kind of offense, and I think needs some kind of uh, maybe like vocal clubhouse leader, like a veteran presence to steer all the young guys in the right direction. Right, like that was kind of Javier Baez last year, but I think you need to be on the field and playing any sort of competent baseball to really like have people take that seriously, right? Because I think Baez was like the only guy that like had got regular playing time last year that was over 30. So I think bringing in Peterson would put an adult in the room. Also, I think he provides a lot of offense, right? Like he had a career year last year. He was your number one hit uh, with the Diamondbacks last year. Um, yeah, he provides, an offensive option. And it is another lefty, so it would make their two best bats both left-handed. But regardless, I mean, any additions they can make, I think, will be welcomed greatly. So I think the Tigers, they need offense. I think the number one addition on the free agent market would be a guy like Jock Peterson.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. What um oh yeah, well I just remembered Jock Peterson at Great American Ballpark and I was like, maybe
Yep,
it's
yep. I was
PTSD.
gonna bring it up, but I was like, like who's gonna?
I because I made that connection and I was like, wait, which team was Tommy Pham playing for? I feel like
No,
that
he was
video.
on the Reds, and the Giants were visiting. Yeah, this was
Yep,
back in 2022 with the fantasy football stuff.
yep, yep.
Which Tommy
Yeah,
Pham's long gone from the Reds at this point.
yeah, that was like 17
Four
teams
teams
ago for
ago.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What,
Uh,
Red Sox,
Mets,
Mets,
Diamondbacks, White
Diamondbacks, White
Sox.
Sox, Royals. Yeah,
Roy, oh my God,
he's
jeez.
gone through so. When was the last time he spent a full
He's a
year on
grid
one
legend
single
already.
team? Yeah, oh, for sure. Just in the last 3 years, he's been on six teams. Yeah.
That's
Uh,
insane.
2021 Padres, that was the last team he was on one team for the whole season. He was also on the Cardinals last year. I forgot about that
Oh yeah, right.
for
Oh my
23
God.
games, which, I mean, not the first time he was on the Cardinals, but yeah,
Yeah.
he's played for one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine teams in 11 years.
Jeez.
And he spent, well, five with the Cardinals, I guess, his first five with the Cardinals.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
so yeah, speaking of Cardinals, that is where I have Andrew Heaney going.
That makes sense.
It just yeah, I don't even
Yeah.
have to put it in verbiage. I think people could make that connection. Just like a veteran starter, not off the charts talent wise. So yeah, why not go to St. Louis?
I have him going to the Washington Nationals. Um, as you know, they do have Patrick Corbin's money coming off the books, and as much as we like to clown the Patrick Corbin contract, he did give them innings every single year, and you do need to fill those innings, right? There's 162 times 9 innings a year that you have to fill plus extras. Uh, and Andrew Heaney, I think can be a guy that at least does that. He's been healthy each of the last two seasons. He, has some kind of value left in the tank, I would say. The strikeout to walk numbers, they're not as there as they used to be, but they still exist. So, I have him go to the Nationals.
So yeah, now on to Ha-Sung Kim, who I have going to Seattle. I think they're gonna choose him to try and break the second base curse. And I think my reasoning of why I have him going to Seattle instead of Gleyber Torres is I think Jerry Dipoto might like a guy like Kim more than Torres, and I think with the Mariners, being a little bit shy to spend over the past few years, they might want to spend more intelligently and go for someone like Kim, even if Kim maybe has, I guess, a little bit less upside than Gleyber Torres. I think he's just been more consistent and and just provides a lot more options for the Mariners because also he can play shortstop. Not only play shortstop but play a very good shortstop. Part of the thing that intrigues me about his free agency is whether teams will be looking at him as a shortstop or a second baseman because obviously he's very valuable at both. But yeah, I see him being a second baseman that the Mariners end up signing, and what I'm hoping breaks their curse at second base. Who do you have Ha-Sung Kim going to?
I mean, I would argue if you're going to sign a guy like Ha-Sung Kim, if you're the Mariners, you don't choose him to break the second base curse. You choose J.P. Crawford to do that.
I would agree. I would agree.
Yeah, I don't know if they would. I don't know like how willing they'd be to do that. He's been with the team for a while. He's kind of like one of the on-field leaders, I would say, in terms of longer tenured guys. Yeah, I'd feel like it'd be tough to have that conversation of, hey, we're moving you off shortstop. Um, but I mean, from a numbers perspective, I think it would be
Would make a lot of sense.
kind of malpractice to sign Ha Sung Kim and keep JP Crawford in shortstop.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I
you know what
totally
I'm saying?
agree.
I have him going to the Arizona Diamondbacks. I think they can create a really fun defensive middle infield, or really just a defensive infield entirely between Kim, Ketel Marte, and Christian Walker. And then Suarez a third as well. Um, they have Geraldo Perdomo as their shortstop right now. He had -1 outs above average last year. He's also, I think, an upgrade offensively over Perdomo, albeit not too much of an upgrade. But regardless, I think he would make them a better team. I think if they're looking to, improve anything this offseason, they already had one of the best offenses in the league last year. Kim is a marginal offensive upgrade while also being a significant defensive upgrade. I think it makes a lot of sense. So I would go with Hassan Kim to Arizona.
Yeah, yeah. On to I'm excited for whoever gets Ah-Sung Kim. He's a very exciting player.
Yeah, he's fun.
On to Nick Pivetta, who all of MLB trade rumors believes he's gonna stick with the Red Sox. So I'm gonna say he sticks with the Red Sox.
All right.
But there's some logic behind that because the Red Sox, first of all, were willing to dole out a potential qualifying offer for Nick Pivetta, which I don't think a lot of organizations would do. And
He's not accepting it.
I guess he did not accept
Yeah.
the
Well,
qualifying
that's why
offer.
he's on this list.
Yeah, yeah, and with Pavetta, with Pavetta, or I guess with the Red Sox, hypothetically, I don't have them getting, really any major starters, so they would have, they need guys, and Pavetta's a guy, so I figure that would, make sense as a fit.
I have him going to the Tigers. My third Tiger of the episode. Um, I think the Tigers obviously had got a lot of success out of Jack Flaherty as kind of a flyer last year. I mean, that's kind of really a big reason why they made the playoffs, right? They made it on a thin margin. They got a lot of success out of him in the first half, traded him for a good shortstop. I think Nick Pivetta kind of provides a lot of the same value that they saw in Jack Flaherty last year. He has very good strikeout to walk numbers, strikeouts especially. The home runs do tend to bite him quite a lot. Although, interestingly enough, he actually was much better away from Fenway, or excuse me, at Fenway last year rather than away from Fenway. So I think the home runs would still be an issue for him in Detroit, even if generally speaking it is a bigger ballpark. Um, but regardless, it was an issue for Flaherty as well. So I mean, I think uh, if you want to kind of try to recreate the success that you had with Jack Flaherty last year, I think a good cheap option to do so would be Nick Pivetta, a guy that you can get on a multi-year deal, maybe like a 2 year, 20 mil per year ish option. You don't have to make a massive commitment, but you're also getting a good amount of strikeouts. You're getting a guy that's had success out of the bullpen as well as a long reliever, which the Tigers seem to really like. So I think the fit is kind of there. So I have him going to Detroit.
Right, right. Now on to Frankie Montas, another starter on the market here. I have him going to San Francisco. Maybe it's just because he's familiar with the Bay. He's
Mm,
had success over there, and yeah, I figure, Giants are willing to, it's a type of deal the Giants have been making over the past half decade or so, or even more than that. Guys like Alex Cobb, or I think they had a short-term deal with Kevin Gausman at some point, or maybe he just accepted a qualifying offer. But a short-term deal with a quality starter. That's that's what I think the Giants are going to do, and get Frankie Montas.
I have I have him. This is the first time this team has been mentioned by either of us this episode, but I'm going to the Atlanta Braves.
Hmm.
With Strider not coming back till probably like June or so, I think there is an open spot in this rotation right now. As it stands, it is Sale, Ronaldo Lopez, Spencer Schwellenbach, Griffin Canning, Ian Anderson. So I think Montas could be a good, quick little 1 year option to just add more depth to that rotation to fill in as a stopgap while Strider's out and maybe see what he can be in those couple months to see if he can stay in the rotation, maybe put him in the bullpen, or maybe put someone else in the bullpen, whatever. I think there's definitely room for another starter in the rotation, and the Braves I think are a team that need to get healthy but also get better. In many ways, and I think that adding Frankie Montas is just a small way to do that while kind of waiting on everyone else to come back healthy.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. On to Jose Quintana. I have Quintana going to the Tigers. Some of the same logic I used for Luis Severino, who would be joining his previous Mets teammate as the Tigers teammate. But yeah, Quintana, like I think that's uh he's sort of a crafty veteran, not much of a commitment that the Tigers would have to go with, neither financially nor lengthwise. And Tigers need that, rotation depth, and I think Quintana would add to that. So I have him going to Detroit.
I have Quintana to the Cleveland Guardians. I think this is a team
Hmm.
that definitely needs some rotation depth. I mean, right now as it stands, they have Bybee, Ben Lively, Bybee then Ben Lively, Kevin Williams, Joey Cantillo, and Tristan McKenzie. I mean, this is a team that needs rotation depth in a division that is getting better around them. So Quintana, I think, would be a good option for what they have right now. Um, I think he fits the mold of what a Cleveland starter typically is, especially what it was maybe last year. Obviously, not a big financial commitment, but I think maybe a guy that you can even place at the top of that rotation. Like if they sign Jose Quintana, would you be shocked to hear, hey, he's actually the opening day starter next year?
Um, no, no, not at
I
all.
wouldn't be too shocked. I like they'd probably give it to Bybee in that scenario, but like I don't think I'd be shocked by hearing they gave it to Quintana. So I have Quintana going to a different AL Central team, going to Cleveland.
Yeah, Cleveland be rocking, as they say.
Hmm.
Um, I so yeah, with Max Scherzer, I actually I just switched it. I originally
Okay.
had another team, but hearing you talk about I think it was Frankie Montas, it made me realize, oh yeah, the Braves could use a starter. I originally had Scherzer going to the Phillies. Um,
Ah,
but I figure, Phillies are kind of comfortable at starting pitcher, even beyond, Wheeler and Nola, like, Suarez and Sanchez each had very, very good years and outperformed expectations. So maybe they're not going to be as aggressive on the starting pitcher market, but the Braves kind of should be, and they can afford someone like Scherzer. And I can't help but think about the parallels with Chris Sale here. Maybe not necessarily age wise, as Scherzer's a good bit older than
much
Sale was
older. Yeah.
when Sale was acquired, but someone who is coming off some below average years by his standards. And maybe could resurge just for one last little stretch of his career. And yeah, it could be with the Braves. And they could afford someone like him, um and he could certainly fill a role with the team, at least in the regular season. So I have Max Scherzer going to Atlanta.
I just realized a really fun hypothetical.
Yeah,
Imagine if the Tigers bring back Serger and Verlander.
I it's a fun thing. I like
It
that.
like would it? I don't really know if it would make the most sense, but it would be fun.
It would be fun. Yeah, it would be fun. Like, yeah, I don't think, you know, who knows what
Imagine
number.
they get the World Series with Serger and Verlander that they so always desired, but it's in 2025 when they're both in their 40s.
Yeah, they each pitched one inning each in the World Series if they
Yeah.
if they were even on
How
the
old was
roster.
Tarek Skubal in 2012?
Um,
Like that'd be a really fun, just like, and back when these guys were dominating the
he's
rotation, their
he's
current
probably in
ace
middle
was
school.
he was born 4 years before both of us, so he would have been 16.
Yeah,
Or
wild.
actually, sorry, 15, November 20th. It's coming up. He would have been 15 years old in 2012. So yeah, that'd be a very fun like thing on like the TBS broadcast or the Fox broadcast. It's like here's Scooble on the mound and here's like him in a side by side like with Scherzer and Verlander both sitting in the Tigers dugout, and it's like back in 2012. Here's some Scherzer and Verlander highlights, and here's Tarek Skubal. It's like a picture of him pitching like on his middle school team.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
easy. Anyway, I have Max Scherzer going to the Nationals. Let's have some
Mm.
fun. Why not? Like I said, they need innings. And I know Max Scherzer hasn't exactly done a good job of that particular thing over the last couple of years, but you know what? Why not? Let's have some fun. Let's right. Like the Nationals are probably not in a position to win now. Again, like it's a team that needs a veteran presence in the clubhouse. Um, Yeah, like, let's have some fun. Let's bring Scherzer back to DC. Why not?
I'd be yeah, that would be of interest for sure. Yeah, onto another future Hall of Famer, Paul Goldschmidt. He just came off the Cardinals books. I have him going to Houston. They have a first base need. They've had a first base need for a good bit, pretty much since
But
they
Chris, they got Jose Abreu. They signed him in free agency. What do you mean they need a
yeah, he still
first
has a year
baseman?
left on his deal, right?
Yeah,
Um, yeah, they ever since they kind of cut ties with Yuli Gurriel, they've needed a first baseman. They tried to solve that issue with Jose Abreu, and obviously turned into one of the worst free agent signings
yeah.
in
He
history.
lost his job to John Singleton in the year 2024.
Indeed, he did. He did.
That's what happened.
So yeah, and there's not too many first basemen out on the market. I don't think the Astros are going to try to go full commitment for a first baseman with Alonso or Walker. So I figure they do that with Paul Goldschmidt. And they're in a situation where like they're kind of at the end of their window and can kind of just try to figure out what sticks and throw some money at people and just hope it works. So yeah, I got Goldschmidt going to Houston.
As do I. Yeah, I mean it makes sense. They have a first base need. I think the Crawford boxes would fit his play style very nicely. Just to see kind of what he still has left in the tank. Obviously, last year was not a good year for him. It was easily the worst year that he's had, at least that I can remember, at maybe any point in his career. It was just bad from start to well, from game two to 162. He had a very good game one that I remember specifically. Um, but it was a rough go at it for Paul Goldschmidt. Yeah, and I mean I think he's still a better option than whatever have the Astros have right now at first base. But why not? Let's throw him in there. Let's see what he can still do at age 35. Put him in there with Altuve, two future Hall of Famers playing on the same side of the infield. Why not?
Why not? Why not?
It would be fun.
Onto Walker Bueller, who I also believe is going to be going to Houston.
Oh,
Houston, the Astros could, they have a Kikuchi going to the free agent market, so they could use an extra starter, and I feel like this is a type of deal the Astros would maybe an I can fix him deal. The last 10 innings that Bueller threw might divert people and think, he's really good, but over the long scale, if you take those last 10 innings away, he's a guy who just came off Tommy John surgery and has been struggling. And I don't know what the free agent market looks like for him, considering how amazing he was in his final three playoff appearances. But it could be an I can fix him deal, even though he was great to finish the year. The Astros might still be able to take advantage and get him on a cheaper deal and maybe try to make him a vital part of their starting rotation.
I am staying in LA with the Dodgers. Look, I get that you're absolutely right in saying that I think people would be a little more swayed by his last 10 innings than they should be, considering how he was in the regular season. But for the Dodgers, I think that is a little different because I think the Dodgers could have looked at those 10 innings and been like, oh man, remember like 2018, remember 2021, like remember like that guy could come back, like if he just right, like, and I
Yeah.
mean I think he kind of there's definitely like kind of a history of like guys that struggled or maybe just weren't major factors in the regular season that had a big postseason going into like relatively low stakes free agencies that end up returning with their teams. I think of like Steve Pierce with the Red Sox. I think of Howie Kendrick with the Nationals. I think that Walker Buehler could kind of be that same guy with the Dodgers.
Yeah, that's a fair that's a fair take. Um onto another reliever here. Kirby Yates, who just played with the Rangers, right?
Rangers,
Yeah.
yeah, and was an All Star. He's going into his age 38 season.
Yeah. I have him going to the north side. I have him going to the Cubs. Partially just,
I see that.
they could use a bit of bullpen help. They could use some back end help for sure. And could use, a veteran presence in their bullpen. Because yeah, I don't have the Cubs getting any other relievers, I don't think. So I figured, Kirby Yates will just go there. Who do you have Kirby Yates going to?
Yeah, this is another team that I have popping up for the first time between either of us in the episode. I have him going to the Minnesota Twins.
Hmm.
I think it's, a low stakes kind of guy. The Twins have a very good bullpen, but I don't really know what they want to do with it. Like MLB trade rumors announced the other day, they're looking to put Griffin Jackson in the rotation, uh, which signals to me they're probably not doing a whole lot this offseason, and thus, you know, would need maybe a couple of small additions. And I think Kirby Yates would kind of be that. He's going into age 38. I can't imagine he's getting any more than a 1 year deal worth not a ton of money. I mean, he did pitch obviously very, very well last season, but um, if the Twins want to do just like a single thing, I think Kirby Yates would be kind of that for them. So I have him going up north to Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's going to be Kirby Yates
that's
announcing his free agency.
exactly. He's going to be on that podium, and he's
Yeah.
going to be like, "I'm going to the Twins."
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, on to Shane Bieber, who is yeah, Shane Bieber is recovering from Tommy John surgery still, I believe, and
Yes, he
um
is.
yeah, he's a Cy Young winner back in 2020. And yeah, in the two starts that he had in 2024, it looked like to be returning to that form, but unfortunately,
Never
yeah,
know.
unfortunately the elbow got in the way. So yeah, I guess whoever's signing him is going to be signing him for multiple years, because you sort of have to. I have him going to the Orioles. I It's hard to find the exact reasoning, but it just seems to make sense to me. I guess the logic is the Orioles are really planning to succeed now and into the future, and I think Bieber kind of provides that. He's still on the younger side, I'm pretty sure. At least, at most in his early 30s, if I'm not mistaken. I'm gonna check on that. Yeah,
Hmm.
he's currently 29. He's gonna be heading into his age 30 season. So yeah, I think it would just make sense philosophically for Baltimore to get him.
I have him going to the Mets. Yeah, if you're going to be losing, Mania and Severino, like the rotation looks shaky at best right now. The Fangraphs chart says Senga, Peterson, Paul Blackburn, Tyler McGill, Jose Buto. And I don't have them getting anyone else on this list, so I think Shane Bieber makes a little bit of sense. It's a buy low, maybe low risk, potentially high reward type of thing. Um, I don't really know what Shane Bieber's floor is. I don't think it's particularly bad, right? But I think the ceiling could be very high if we want to take anything away from what we saw out of those first two starts before he went under the knife last year. So the Mets, I think, obviously we both have them signing Juan Soto in this hypothetical, but I think they do need to do something to up the pitching a little bit, and I think Shane Bieber might just be that guy.
Right, right. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, on to Justin Verlander, who yeah, just still out there on the free agent market. I have him going to the Cubs. I think just in my hypothetical, like they could use an extra starter. Um, I I only have Manaea as the other guy, so I don't know. I think he could just be another guy that the Cubs could have, and he's one of the Cubs are one of the teams that can afford him. So I just have him going there.
I'm coming home. I'm coming home. He's going back to Detroit. Yeah,
Nice.
why not? Well, like with Searcher, let's have some fun. Bring him back. I think even if I mentioned the hypothetical with him and Searcher earlier. I think another Tigers playoff run with Justin Verlander on the roster, even if he doesn't make the playoff roster at all, would be a little something. I think it'd be good to get him in there. I mean, first of all, there's the familiarity with his coaching staff. He already has familiarity with the fan base, with the front office. And I think they, like I mentioned with Peterson earlier, I think some adults in that room, and who else is more of an adult than Justin Verlander? So, I think obviously I don't know how competitive the market will be for him that they offer him, given the history that he has in that city, the fact that you know who knows how much left is actually there for him in Major League Baseball, right? I think last season showed us that pretty clearly we're probably never getting a peak Justin Verlander again. I mean, we then again we said that in like 2016 and or 2015, and look what happened. But uh, I mean, at this time it kind of does look for real. But you know what? Why not? With whatever he has left in the tank, why not send him back home? Bring him back to where it all started.
Yeah, that's a scenario I root for sure, for
Yeah,
sure. Um, this next one, yeah, we have Kenley Jansen,
yeah.
another guy who will at least get Hall of Fame attention. I don't know if he'll be a Hall of Famer, but
Mm.
he's a legend in his own right. I have him going to the Padres.
Oh wow!
No other reason in that he's played for the Dodgers, Braves, and Red Sox, and Craig Kimbrell has played for all those teams. So I think he will go to one of Craig Kimbrell's other former teams, and I have him go to the Padres.
You don't have him going to the White Sox?
Um, no, I don't have him going to the White Sox. Who do
That
you
is
have
a
Kenley
former Craig
Jansen
Kimbrell
going
team.
to?
Um, I have him going to the Dodgers. I mean, he's made it very clear that that's where he wants to be. He was literally at Game One of the World Series uh, as a free agent, as someone who played for a different organization, literally that same year. I think it's the same thing as they could offer him the major league minimum, and I think he'd take it, even if there's a real offer on the table somewhere else. So I think he just has a desire to be back there. I know he said that he wanted to retire there. He's going into what, like age 39 or something?
Hmm.
Is that it?
Uh, 38 maybe?
37. Okay. So I don't know. I think he just wants to be back in LA, and I think as long as they want him to some degree, that's where he will be.
Okay, okay, yeah. I don't think I was following closely enough with what he was doing in the
He literally
offseason.
said like in August, like, yeah, I want to retire with the Dodgers, like while he was pitching for the Red Sox.
Yeah, yeah. He's great. Yeah. Great glue guy for Boston. Um Speaking of Boston, one of the a former World Series champion from the Red Sox is on the free agent market. His name is JD Martinez. Yeah, he's been on the free agent market each of the last now it's three off seasons in a row. And he's remained pretty productive. So shout out to him keeping it going. I believe he's going to go to the Nationals because yeah, I think um yeah, they want to get some guys. They could use some bats, and I think sort of similar to the Mets getting him last year, where they weren't necessarily coming off a great year, but still could have used him. I think the Nationals are going to try and go out and get him. Who do you have Martinez going to?
This might be like my most passionate take here. I think this would actually be a really good fit, and I think it would make a lot of sense. I have him going to Cincinnati, playing with the Reds.
Hmm.
Obviously, I think that ballpark will fit him very, very well. He still is a guy that has power to all fields, so I think pretty clearly he'd be an upgrade offensively in that lineup. In terms of where he fits in the lineup, might be, you know, you have to move a couple things around, but the biggest thing for me is that the Reds' biggest goal for this upcoming year should be development out of their young position players. They have a lot of guys that, you know, the team is really depending on to compete for the next few years, whether it be Ellie De La Cruz, whether it be Spencer Steer, Christian Encarnacion Strand, Noelvi Marte, Jonathan India. Uh, there's plenty of others. And JD Martinez is a guy that has really helped out a lot of younger players' careers, right? When he was in Boston, guys like Mookie Betts and Rafael Devers talked about how much he meant for them and their development as hitters. And I think JD Martinez coming over to Cincinnati could help out a lot of those younger guys. You know, they don't really have that guy with Votto being gone now. And I think maybe like to some degree, maybe that kind of hurt them last year, you know, not having that adult guidance in the room. And I think JD Martinez would be a perfect fit for that. So I think JD Martinez in Cincinnati would actually be maybe a more impactful move than many might consider.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Hopefully, yeah, I'm sure some of that logic that I wasn't using for the Nationals could be used for the Nationals as well, considering all the young pieces
For
they have.
sure, for sure.
So yeah, it could be yeah, it could be a situation where like yeah, even if you're not in a winning window right now, he could really help you out. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, on to our second to last free agent, Alex Cobb. I have
One
him
of our
going.
favorites.
Yeah, one of our favorites, and I have him going to Boston because,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, if this does
What a
happen,
terrible fit.
yeah, if this if this does happen, I might get me an Alex Cobb jersey because this guy's pretty cool. But I think
Talk about a
there's
guy that would hate his teammates.
yeah. There's a Alex Cobb, the connection is already there with Andrew Bailey. He's already been a starting pitcher with Bailey as his pitching coach. So I think Bailey likes him. Bailey likes the ground ball guy. I think Bailey likes the guy that doesn't use his four seamer that often. And Bailey obviously has an influence on Craig Breslow and his decisions. And he's a deal that the lowly Red Sox can afford to make. So I'm gonna have him go to the Red Sox. Who do
Surely they have an infield defense that can appropriately accommodate his ground ball rate, right?
Yeah, especially if they have Cedon Rafaela playing shortstop because
Yeah,
he's amazing. Of
he's
course,
he's fantastic out there.
yes. Don't
I
look at the
have Alex
numbers.
Cobb going to the Pirates.
Nice.
Um, Kind of just like a why not kind of deal. Um, They have, I mean, like, obviously the Pirates rotation will be largely dependent on the younger guys, right? Skeens, Jarrett Jones, maybe Bubba Chandler if he comes up next year. Luis Ortiz showed some signs of growth last year. Mitch Keller, of course, is still there. I still think there's some room for depth and maybe, again, some room for adults. And Alex Cobb could provide that. And, I mean, there's certainly a lot of injury risk within the rotation. Jared Jones got hurt last year. Who knows how much we're going to see Bubba Chandler? Who knows what we're seeing out of guys like Luis Ortiz? So I think having a stable guy in there like Cobb, who was injured for the last couple seasons but is healthy now, I think would be quite valuable for a team that is looking to maybe buy low on some guys.
Right, right, absolutely. And yeah, now on to the last free agent, Carlos Santana. He's
Yeah,
still out there,
still
still
good. Gold
still
Glover.
pretty good. Yeah, Gold
Yeah.
Glover. Good bat as well. I have him staying in Minnesota. Because
Okay.
yeah, I don't have the Twins getting anybody else in this list. So
Fair.
yeah, why not keep old Carlos Santana around?
I have him going to the Yankees. They obviously need a first baseman. Uh, you had them getting Christian Walker earlier. I have them getting Santana. Very very similar, right? I mean, two very good defensive first basemen. I think they prefer the lefty over the righty, kind of just naturally.
Yeah, that's fair.
Um, and I mean, Carlos Santana's been a vibes guy for a while, right? Like everywhere he goes, like the vibes just seem up, and I think the Yankees kind of need that right now. Whether or not they get Soto, they need a guy to, um, maybe loosen the tension in that clubhouse a little bit, and I think Carlos Santana could be that guy. So I have him going to New York, going to the Bronx.
Yeah, yeah, that would be a pretty good fit for sure, for sure. All right, yeah, that does it for Major League free agency
Yep.
predictions. Yeah, wonderful yeah, wonderful time of year to discuss such things. But yeah, anything more before we wrap up?
No, I think that's kind of it.
Wonderful. All right. So yeah, that does it for this installment of Above Replacement Radio. We hope you enjoyed this one. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and want to watch the conversation as it happens, go to the YouTube channel. It is called Above Replacement Radio. Check out all the playlists on there, specifically our guest interviews playlist, where we just had Matt Brash on. Remember that dominant reliever with the crazy slider? That's him. Listen to how we developed that slider and how exciting it was to pitch on the night that the Mariners broke the 21-year playoff drought. We have all that, plenty more on the Matt Brash interview. So make sure to check that out. We've also had Mark Simon on 4 times. We've had Chris Rose on, Jeff Passan, Foolish Bailey, Sarah Langs, Mike Petriello, and many more. So yeah, go check out the YouTube channel to get all those guest interviews. They're all in a playlist, and also follow us on social media. Follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta. Follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Curran, and follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio for all the show needs. We hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you next time, where we will be talking all the happenings in Major League Baseball once again. See you then.
This conversation is over.
Is over.